If you feel like something inside you has quietly stopped working, not your life on the outside, but you on the inside, this is not a breakdown. This is not depression, and it is definitely not failure. Sometimes the universe goes completely silent right before it rebuilds who you are from the ground up. In this video, you will understand the phase that almost no one explains before a true interior transformation begins. Because here is what's really happening. The version of you that used to feel certain, the one with a direction, a story, a solid sense of this is who I am, is starting to flicker. Like a screen that keeps freezing mid-sentence. Like a signal that once came in clear and now just glitches. And the strangest part, nothing catastrophic happened, no major loss, no obvious crisis, just this quiet, persistent feeling that the old you no longer fits. You've tried to shake it off. You've searched for answers, in books, in conversations, in the silence of 3 a.m., and yet the glitch keeps coming back. What if that's not a problem to be solved? What if that's the most important signal your soul has ever sent you? Stay with me until the very end of this video, because in the final part, I'm going to give you something most spiritual content never offers. A clear map of exactly where you are in your soul's timeline right now, and the one perceptual shift that turns this disorientation into the most powerful reset of your entire life. There is a phase in the journey of awakening that nobody prepares you for. Not the teachers, not the books, not the people around you, because most of them have never been through it consciously. And because it doesn't look dramatic from the outside, it often goes completely unrecognized. It looks like confusion. It feels like emptiness. Sometimes it disguises itself as sadness or restlessness, or this unsettling sense that you are standing between two worlds, and you no longer belong to either one. You are not who you used to be, but you haven't yet fully become who you are becoming. That space in between, that is exactly where you are right now. And this video exists for that space. How many times have you felt the universe trying to tell you something, but you couldn't quite decode the message? How many times have you woken up and felt the weight of a life that used to make sense, and now just feels like someone else's story? How many times have you looked in the mirror and thought, I know there is something more. I know I am more, but I don't know how to get there from here. If any of that resonates, even slightly, then this video was made for you. What we are going to explore together in these next few minutes is not theory, it is not motivation, and it is not another list of things you need to fix about yourself. What this is a map of what is genuinely happening to you at a soul level when your old identity begins to break down, what the disorientation means energetically, what is quietly being born inside the collapse, and how to move through this transition without losing yourself, because the truth is, you are not losing yourself. You are finally, after a very long time, beginning to find who you actually are. This is your channel, this is your space, and this journey, the one you are already in the middle of, is exactly what we are here to navigate together. Let's start with what you are actually feeling. Because before we can understand what this is, we need to name it honestly. It doesn't feel like a crisis, not in the way people talk about crises. There's no single dramatic event you can point to, no clear reason written on a wall. It's more subtle than that, more invisible. Maybe you wake up in the morning and there's a strange heaviness in your chest. Not quite sadness, not quite anxiety, but something in between. A kind of grey fog that sits over everything, even the things that used to bring you joy. Maybe you find yourself pulling away from people, not because you don't love them, but because the conversations feel thin, shallow, like you are wearing a costume of yourself and hoping no one notices. Maybe the goals you once chased with fire now feel hollow. The version of success you were building toward looks perfectly fine from the outside and completely empty from the inside. And the most unsettling part of all, you can't explain it to anyone because nothing is wrong, exactly. And yet something fundamental has shifted, that is the invisible symptom. Here is what's happening beneath the surface. Your energy system, the part of you that science is only beginning to measure, but that ancient traditions have always known, operates through coherence, through alignment. When the beliefs you hold, the identity you carry, and the frequency you emit are all moving in the same direction, life feels solid, purposeful, real. But you are not the same person you were 2 years ago, or even 6 months ago. Experiences have moved through you. Losses, realizations, moments of beauty so sharp, they cracked something open. Quiet nights where a truth arrived that you couldn't unknow. And here is the thing about truth. Once it lands inside you, it starts reorganizing everything around it. Your old identity was built on a specific set of beliefs about who you are, what you deserve, what the world is, and what is possible for you. Those beliefs functioned like software. They ran quietly in the background, shaping every thought, every choice, every reaction. But the truth that has been arriving in you, it is incompatible with the old software, and so the system is glitching. Think of it this way. Imagine a frequency, a radio signal, that has been tuned to a specific station for years. That station played a certain kind of music, the music of who you used to be, the music of that version's fears, that version's limits, that version's story. Now something inside you has begun to tune, slowly, almost imperceptibly, toward a different frequency, a higher one, cleaner, more true. But during the transition, you're between stations. You're catching fragments of the old signal and fragments of something new, and for a moment it all sounds like noise. That noise is not a malfunction. That noise is the tuning process. You are not broken. You are being recalibrated. And here is where most people make the critical mistake. And I want you to hear this clearly, because it changes everything. When the glitch begins, the mind immediately searches for a diagnosis. Something is wrong with me. I'm depressed. I'm lost. I'm failing at life. And in searching for what's wrong, it tries to repair the old signal, to go back to who it was before, to rebuild the old identity, to silence the discomfort. But you cannot go back. Not really. Because the truth that arrived in you did not arrive by accident. The universe does not send disruption randomly. Every glitch, every moment of inner static, every morning you woke up feeling like a stranger in your own life. Those were not punishments. They were precise, intentional, carefully calibrated by something far larger than your conscious mind. They were invitations. In a moment, I'm going to show you what this looks like through a quantum lens, and why what's happening to you right now is not just spiritual, but deeply, scientifically coherent. But before that, I need you to sit with something. The version of you that is glitching was never meant to be permanent. It was always a bridge, a necessary chapter, a temporary frequency on the way to the one your soul actually belongs to. The collapse of the old self is not the end of the story. It is, quite precisely, where the real story begins. Now let's go deeper, because what is happening to you is not just emotional. It is not just spiritual in the abstract poetic sense. There is a framework drawn from the edges of quantum physics and the oldest wisdom traditions on Earth that explains this glitch with extraordinary precision. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Quantum mechanics tells us something that sounds impossible until you sit with it long enough. A particle does not have a fixed, defined state until it is observed. Before observation, it exists in a superposition, meaning it holds multiple possible realities simultaneously. It is not one thing. It is a field of potential, hovering between all the things it could become. The moment of observation, the moment consciousness interacts with it, is the moment one reality collapses out of the field of all possibilities and becomes actual. Now hold that image, because you are not so different from that particle. Right now, you are in superposition, the old version of you. The identity, the story, the frequency you have been living is losing its definition. Its edges are softening. And in that softening, something extraordinary is happening. You are temporarily re-entering the field of potential. You are, for a brief and disorienting window of time, between realities. Not lost, not broken, between. In quantum terms, this is called the collapse of a wave function. In spiritual terms, it has been called the dark night of the soul, the void, the threshold. Every tradition that has ever tracked the journey of awakening has a name for this space, because every soul that has ever truly evolved has passed through it. It is the space before the new self crystallizes. And here is what makes it so uncomfortable. Your mind was trained to operate in certainty. It was built to identify patterns, to protect a stable narrative, to maintain the story of who you are so that you can function in the world. When that story begins to dissolve, the mind experiences it as danger, but your soul experiences it as arrival. This is where the concept of your higher self becomes not just poetic, but operational. Your higher self is not a distant, mystical version of you floating somewhere above the clouds. It is the aspect of your consciousness that exists outside the limitation of your current timeline. It is the part of you that already knows which frequency you belong to. That has always known, and it communicates not through loud announcements, but through precisely placed disruptions, through the glitch. Every time life stopped making sense in the old way, that was your higher self sending a signal. Every synchronicity you noticed, the recurring number, the conversation that arrived at exactly the right moment, the book that fell open to exactly the right page, those were not coincidences. They were coordinates. Your higher self has been guiding you toward a specific collapse because it knows what is waiting on the other side of it. Now think about the timelines. Quantum theory, extended into the many worlds interpretation, suggests that every possible version of reality exists simultaneously. Every choice, every shift in consciousness, every moment of genuine transformation opens a branch, a new trajectory through the field of what is possible. You have lived on a specific timeline, operated from a specific frequency, attracted a specific quality of reality that matched precisely the identity you were carrying. But here is what your current glitch is telling you. You are shifting timelines, not metaphorically, not as a spiritual concept to make you feel better, but as a real, functional reorganization of the frequency you emit, and therefore the reality you collapse out of the quantum field around you. The disorientation you feel is the sensation of leaving one timeline and not yet having fully landed on the next. It is the gap between frequencies, and it is supposed to feel like this. Most people, when they reach this gap, do one of two things. They either push harder into the old identity, trying to stabilize what is already dissolving, forcing clarity where the universe is asking for surrender. Or they collapse into the fear that there is nothing on the other side, that the glitch means something has gone irreversibly wrong. Both responses are understandable. Both are the mind trying to protect you, and both delay the transition. There is a third option, and it begins with one radical act of trust, recognizing that the version of you that is dissolving was always meant to dissolve, so that the version of you your soul has always been moving toward could finally take form. In a moment, I am going to walk you through exactly how to align with that version, the one that already exists, already vibrates at the frequency you are reaching for, already lives in the timeline you are being called toward. But I need you to understand one thing first. The shift does not happen through effort. It does not happen through force or discipline or trying harder to become someone new. It happens through recognition. And what you are about to recognize will change the way you see everything that has been happening to you. Here is something that will reframe everything. The version of you that is aligned, clear, grounded, living in full resonance with your soul's purpose is not someone you need to build from scratch. It is not a distant destination waiting at the end of a long road of self-improvement. That version already exists. Right now, in this moment, there is a version of you that has already crossed this threshold, that has already integrated this transition, that wakes up with a quiet, unshakable sense of knowing, not because life became perfect, but because the alignment between who they are and how they live became real. And here is the quantum truth. That version is not ahead of you in time. It exists in a parallel frequency. And your only job, not tomorrow, not after you've fixed everything, but right now, is to begin closing the distance between the frequency you're currently in and the frequency that version of you already holds. So how does alignment actually work? It does not begin with action. It begins with identity. Most people try to change their lives by changing their behavior. They set new goals, build new habits, force new routines, and then wonder why. After weeks or months, the same old heaviness returns, the same patterns, the same invisible ceiling. It is because the behavior changed, but the identity beneath it did not. The quantum field does not respond to what you do. It responds to what you are, to the frequency of the consciousness that is doing the doing. And your current identity, the one that is glitching, was assembled from old data, from wounds that taught you to be small, from experiences that taught you that certain things were not available to you, from a version of the world that no longer reflects what you know to be true. To align with your awakened self, you do not need to do more. You need to become more by releasing the identity that was always too small to contain you. This begins with one deceptively simple practice: witnessing without resistance. When the glitch comes, when the emptiness arrives, when the old self flickers, instead of fighting it or explaining it away, you simply witness it. You say internally, I see you. I know what you are. You are the old frequency completing its cycle. That single act of conscious recognition does something remarkable at an energetic level. It stops feeding the old identity with the one resource it needs to survive: your fear of it. The old self dissolves not through force, but through the withdrawal of the belief that it is all you are. And in that space, in the quiet that follows the release, the new frequency has room, finally, to arrive. Your awakened self has been waiting patiently at the edge of your resistance. You don't have to find it. You only have to stop hiding from it. I want you to close your eyes for a moment, or simply soften your gaze, and stay with me here. Think about everything that has felt like loss in this recent chapter of your life, the relationships that changed shape, the version of yourself you had to leave behind, the certainty you once had that quietly dissolved into questions. Now, I want you to consider something. What if none of it was taken from you? What if every single thing that fell away, every identity, every illusion of safety, every version of yourself that no longer fit, was not a subtraction, but a clearing? Because here is what no one tells you about collapse. It is the most creative act the universe performs. A forest that has never burned grows dense and tangled over time. The light can no longer reach the ground. New life cannot find soil. Everything that once thrived slowly suffocates under the weight of what refuses to die. And then fire comes, not as punishment, as renewal. What emerges from the ash is not a lesser forest. It is a wilder, more vital, more luminous version of itself, built on the same ground, but utterly transformed by the willingness to begin again. You are that forest right now. The fire has already moved through you, and what you are standing in, this strange, tender, disorienting in-between, is the ash that precedes the bloom. What is born after the collapse is not a repaired version of who you were. It is something genuinely new, a self that does not need external validation to feel real, a consciousness that can hold uncertainty without fracturing, a heart that has been broken open, not broken apart, and now has room for a depth of connection, of purpose, of aliveness that the old self simply could not access. The confusion you feel is not confusion, it is expansion. And expansion always feels disorienting before it feels like freedom. The loneliness you carry is not abandonment. It is the sacred solitude of someone standing at the threshold of their own becoming. And the silence, that strange, heavy silence where the old answers used to live. That silence is not emptiness. That silence is where your truest self finally gets to speak. So I want to leave you with this reflection. Not as a question to answer right now, but as a seed to carry. Who would you be if you fully trusted that everything falling apart was falling into place? Not someday, not after the glitch resolves itself, but right now, in this exact moment of transition. Who would you be if you chose to see this not as a crisis, but as a calling? Because the version of you that survives this collapse does not just survive, they arrive. Fully, finally, home. We began this video with a simple truth. The glitch is not a malfunction, it is a message. And now you have the map, the invisible symptom, that quiet, persistent sense of not fitting your own life anymore, is the first sign of a soul outgrowing the identity it was living in. The quantum disorientation is not chaos. It is the precise sensation of a consciousness shifting timelines. And what is born after the collapse is not a repaired version of who you were. It is the version your soul has always been moving toward. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not losing your way. You are in the most important transition of your interior life, and you are moving through it more consciously than you know. This video ends here. But the process it awakened in you is only just beginning. You didn't find this video by accident, and you didn't stay until the end by accident either. If something in this video touched a part of you that rarely gets seen, if any of these words felt less like information and more like recognition, then you already know this space was made for you. This channel exists as a portal for exactly the kind of soul that stays until the end of videos like this one, the kind that feels things deeply, questions everything, and refuses to settle for a surface-level life. If that is you, subscribe, not for the numbers, but because you deserve a consistent space that meets you where you actually are, on the days when nowhere else does. And in the comments, I want to ask you something simple. Write, "I am in the glitch," if you are in the middle of this transition right now. Or share one synchronicity, one moment recently where the universe seemed to be speaking directly to you. Writing it here anchors it. It makes it real. It tells the field, I am paying attention. The next video is already waiting for you on the screen. It continues exactly where this one leaves off. Because this journey is not a single video, it is a path, and you are already walking it.